And we're back after that short break, and obviously we're still here with Daniel Pitts, one of the co-directors of the film Sprint from JCAD Pictures. So, what did you actually learn from your audience research? Well, to start off with, let's talk about the setting. What we learned from our research into setting is that people within the age demographic really like settings that put the protagonists in isolated locations, and they really like the idea of a family home, you know, because it breaks up the action from the film, which puts it at a really, really good pace. Well, let's just have a look at some of the recorded research, courtesy to the JCAD Pictures production team. So what are some iconic settings in thriller films, and why do you find them so iconic?
I think the film Seven is quite iconic for its settings, because it starts off where they're in a desert, and the desert's very mysterious because there's not much there, so you can't get an inkling of what's going to happen. It adds to the suspense of the movie because you don't know what's going to happen, so anything could happen. Especially with the detectives Summers and Mills, where they can do what they want and not pay the consequence for it, which makes you very anxious of what they could do or what they're going to do.
So what do you think is a typical setting in a thriller film?
I would normally expect somewhere quite empty, where there's not a lot of like human activity, somewhere that's got a lot of emotion behind it. So, for example, an abandoned wood or a house or something along those lines. And I would normally expect it to look run down and actually look quite battered and emotional.
So what are some iconic settings in thriller films for you, and why?
In the film Rear Window, the apartment in there, it's an old film, I know, but it's brilliant due to the place. It's really good to build up and break the tension, and it's just a really worrying and eerie place to be.
So when the protagonist isn't in the action, what sort of setting do you expect him to be in a thriller film?
Well, generally, I would tend to think the protagonist to be perhaps in a homely setting, maybe with the family, as shown in the thriller film Seven with Detective Mills.
So what are some settings you find very iconic in thriller films?
I really like the opening of Casino Royale because it's set in Madagascar. I find this a brilliant setting because it puts James Bond out of his comfort zone in a foreign country. So watching it, I'm wondering how he will adapt and cope with this unfamiliar situation.
Well, we address the idea of isolation with the first and third act of the opening, because the wood, which the protagonist Jason is in, this is located away from big social, industrial areas. This addresses the fact that the audience like them being isolated because it adds more suspense to the film. I also picked up on something I forgot to mention before when watching back some of those clips, that someone in that clip mentioned that he likes the idea of the protagonist being in a unfamiliar foreign location, and that is one of the reasons we set our film in Slovakia, due to this idea that you're not quite sure what the character's going to do and why is this and stuff. And then obviously in the middle of that we do have the family home to break up the intense chasing, as they do said before. Now having it set in Slovakia makes people want to watch a film because they escape from day-to-day life, and watching a film set in another country offers a great escapism and interesting experience. Like, this is an example of the Richard Dyer utopian theory. So what other aspects of your film did you make due to the research? Well, the actual storyline of our film is that a man, Jason, has lost his memory and has flashbacks while being chased by an anonymous pursuer. One of the reasons we chose this is because we received feedback from our intended audience that they really like films like Memento and the Bourne trilogy. You know, films about people with memory loss. And that's another reason, because of the Bourne trilogy, we have our protagonist, being an actual secret agent. And because of like this, we have quite a conventional storyline, but it has a good balance between action per minute and, you know, in nice dialogue scenes, which you get, obviously, we all want in thriller films. Okay then, now once again, let's look at some research from this. So what are some of the best storylines in thriller films and why?
I think the Bourne series is actually really good.
I mean, I love that he doesn't know who he is. I think that adds such a complexity bit to the film. And I also think the film just in total just has, in general, has so many layers to it to dive deep into. And also him being a secret agent is just adds so much suspense and tension. And I just think that really works for the film.
So, what are some of the best storylines in thriller films, in your opinion, and why?
Well, let's take for example the film Seven. I love the film itself, but I love personally the plot twist ending because you're not really sure whether the character John Doe is, well, whatever, justified in his actions. He's portrayed as a bad guy, but he does have reason for his actions at the end of the film, therefore making it a plot twist ending.
So, what are some storylines you really like in thriller films?
In the film Memento, it breaks up the story by showing you Leonard's previous life through flashbacks and how it was ordinary and how he was happy. And then it proceeds to show what his life was like after he lost his memory. And it fills in the gaps of the lost memory to piece together a full movie in a slightly odd way.
So, what are some storylines in thriller films that you really enjoy?
I really like the storyline from the film Taken, just because, you know, Brian Mills is trying to save his daughter, and you really feel for the character. Not only that, but it has loads of action, it keeps you interested in the storyline, and, you know, you just want to keep watching it, so that's why I really like the storyline within Taken.
Because we're running out of time, we can't really talk about one more aspect of audience research. So go ahead. Okay then, let's touch upon characters then. We learned that mostly that our audience want a perfect action hero who are capable of handling himself. You know, that's why we had our protagonist Jason having a gun, being physically fit to run away. But they also like the protagonist to be smart and to outsmart his antagonist. That's why we have him in the Act 3 hide behind the bush and pop out behind him, behind the mysterious biker, and leave it up to interpretation. But we're going to say he shoots him and kills him, which, you know, is like he's outsmarting him, he's, you know, ambushed him. And there's something which people didn't pick on, but we wanted to do because we know people like to watch films because of this, is the main character Jason, even though he's an action hero, he does look like an everyday, day-to-day man, you know, he's just quite an average Joe really. And therefore this makes people want to see it because they can relate to him. This is like the use and gratification theory, because people will find and enjoy someone like them succeeding, and therefore they would want to go watch the film to make themselves feel good. Okay, well, that's all from us tonight. I'm going to leave you guys with the last bit of research for you guys to watch as we roll the credits. A massive thank you to you, Daniel Pitts. Speak to you guys soon.
What do you think of a typical character in a thriller film should be, and can you give any examples to us?
Any examples? The first one that comes to mind is Brian Mills from Taken. It's mainly because he's very attractive to women and he's a strong character. He knows how to handle a gun like most main male characters in thriller films. You know, he's always trying to defend his family and friends, and that's what I guess like his sort of role in thriller films and stuff. So yeah, he'll be definitely an example of a male character in thriller films.
So very masculine, knows how to handle a gun in action, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah.
When you think of a thriller film, what is a typical character you think of, and could you give any examples?
When I think of a protagonist in a thriller film, I think that they are intelligent and strong in order to outsmart the enemy at hand and be able to beat them in order for a happy ending. They seem troubled at first and are not happy with the way that things are going, which allows their character to change over the course of the film into a better person. When I think of a thriller film character, I think of Sherlock Holmes because he is smart, but people know that he's capable of and seem very distant at the start of the film. But towards the end, he realises his wrong ways and solves the case and becomes a better person because of it.
Oh, okay, that was very detailed, thank you. What do you think a typical character in a thriller film is, and can you give me any examples?
I would say a male, a strong male with a weapon usually, because they usually seem quite intimidating and they scare the audience and obviously the people in it. And yeah, They're usually quite vicious and quite malicious and try to, I guess, manipulate people into going somewhere and maybe killing them, I guess, because thriller films are like that and they're usually quite gruesome.
Can you give any examples of a character that you think of when you think of a thriller film?
Or I'd say Freddy Krueger maybe, because he has, I guess that's a thriller film, Nightmare on Elm Street, and because he has the claws and he kills people in lots of different ways because he can shapeshift, and it's just generally quite intimidating.
So you more remember the bad guys in a thriller film more than the good guys?
More than good guys, yeah, definitely.
When you think of a typical thriller film, what is a typical character you think of, and could you give any examples?
My favourite characters in a thriller film are the antagonists. They are devious towards the antagonist and always cause mayhem in the film, causing twists and problems for the hero to overcome. They are smart and almost come out with victory, but the hero normally overcomes for a happy ending. My favourite antagonist in the thriller film is Dr. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of Lambs. He is very manipulative towards Clarice and is devious in planning his escapes, which portrayed his intelligence and conveys to the audience how dangerous he is in his role as the villain in the film. However, in this film, the protagonist is not a typical stereotype of a strongman character. In fact, it's a young woman who has great abilities and courage, which makes the character in the film even better.
Thank you very much. When you think of a thriller film, what is a typical character you think of, and could you give any examples?
Well, from a thriller film, I always think of somebody like Will Smith in the film Focus, because he's a strong, intelligent male and dresses in a suit which gives the impression of power.
So what you're saying is a protagonist in a thriller film should be a male lead who is strong rather than a weak female lead?
Yes, definitely, yeah.